My name is Katie Scott. And I am a registered nurse employed by the University of Michigan Healthcare System. I am also a proud member of the Michigan Nurses Association. The MNA represents more than 11,000 nurses in every corner of our state. I am thrilled to be here today because I get the privilege to announce that the Michigan Nurses Association's nurse leaders have unanimously voted to endorse Senator nurses are feeling the burn. Because Bernie is the only candidate who recognizes that our country's healthcare system is broken beyond repair. Profit-driven insurance companies still stand between many patients and the life-saving care they need. Even worse, millions of people are without any health care coverage whatsoever. Facing a life-threatening illness or injury is scary enough. In America, no one should face the added terror of bankruptcy just because they get sick. Nurses believe that healthcare is a human right. Only Bernie has made a commitment to expand Medicare for all. Bernie wants to ensure that every American has access to quality health care regardless of their income. Both in healthcare and in our democracy at large, Bernie understands that a handful of millionaires and billionaires have far too much power. Bernie is the only candidate without a super PAC. And he is the only candidate I trust to overturn Citizens United and get In Michigan, we know all too well what happens when the rich bankroll politicians with their own bottom line in mind. In our state, that means emergency managers are installed to balance the budget at the expense of everything Communities, especially communities of color, are sacrificed to save a bucks and preserve corporate tax cuts. Flint and Detroit public schools are the most famous recent examples, but this has been going on for years. Continues in spite of the fact that voters overwhelmingly overturned the undemocratic emergency manager law in 2012. Yes! Politicians, under the influence of special interests, simply passed a new emergency manager law that could not be repealed by the people. Bernie knows better. And Bernie will do things differently at a national level. Bernie is the only candidate for president who does not have a cozy relationship with Wall Street. He is the only one who will stand up to billionaires who devastated our economy. Bernie will make them pay, and he will make sure that Wall Street does not devastate Main Street again. The Michigan Nurses Association is endorsing Bernie today because we share the same values. His long history of standing up for working families, his desire to rebuild the middle class, to ensure that kids can go to college for free, and his plan for universal health care makes him our choice for President of the United States. And now, it is my honor to introduce the best person to lead our country forward and the next President of the United States.
but nurses all over this country. that they were trained and they have devoted their lives to keeping us healthy, that they cannot do their job when we continue to live in a nation where 29 million Americans have no health insurance, where we pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, where millions of people are underinsured. And what they understand with great courage is if they are going to do the jobs that they have dedicated their lives for, yes, America must join the rest of the industrialized world. Healthcare for all! Way than I usually do, because I've just come from a meeting which was one of the more difficult meetings that I have ever attended in a long political life, where I have seen a lot and I have heard a lot. I have just met with 7 or 8 residents of Flint, Michigan. I obviously have read the newspapers, been somewhat involved in the issue, but I really did not know how ugly and how horrible and how terrible what is going on in that community. It is beyond my comprehension that in the year 2016, in the United States of America, we are poisoning our children. I have 4 kids. Jane and I have 4 kids. We have 7 very beautiful grandchildren. Jane and I just talked to a mother who said that she has a kid who was very bright, did schoolwork really, really well. And in the last 2 years, she has seen her child's ability to do schoolwork markedly deteriorate. Can you imagine being a mother, seeing your own babies, your own child's intellectual development deteriorate in front of your very eyes?
No!
That is happening. That is happening all over that city. And all I can say right now, and I don't want to be overly political, I've called for Snyder's resignation. No. I mean this seriously. This is not. I've called for Snyder's resignation, that's fine. But if the local government cannot protect those children, if the state government cannot protect those children, then the federal government better get in. I am very proud that so many of you are here today, because the issue that we are dealing with now as a nation is not a complicated issue. And the issue is whether or not we are going to have a government which represents all of the people of our country, or whether we're going to have a government owned and controlled by wealthy campaign contributors. We have today a corrupt campaign finance system which is undermining American democracy. We have a system in which a small number of people, very small number of people, are making huge campaign contributions. I don't know how I'm going to use that word again every time I say it. 10,000 people are going to echo it. All right. as a nation. Where we are as a nation is that one family, the Koch brothers, you obviously have heard of the Koch brothers. They and a few of their billionaire friends are prepared to spend some $900 million in this campaign cycle to buy the election. Wall Street pumping in huge amounts of money to Democratic and Republican candidates. And that is why, as Katie mentioned to you a moment ago, when you have one family, this is the United States of America, one family prepared to spend more in this campaign cycle than either the Democratic or Republican parties, my friends, that is not democracy, that is oligarchy. Is not about a handful of billionaires controlling our economy, controlling our political life. We are going to have a political revolution. One person. I'm here to tell you what no other candidate for president will tell you, and that is that no president, not Bernie Sanders or anybody else, can do it alone. No president can do it alone, and I'll tell you why. And I tell you this being a member of the United States Senate. The people who control our economy, Wall Street, corporate America, the large campaign donors, the corporate media that determines what you see and what you hear. They are so powerful, no president can do it alone. But I'll tell you how we can bring about the changes that this country desperately needs. And that is when tens of millions of people stand up. Wall Street has literally unlimited amounts of money. But they do not have, at the end of the day, they do not have what we have if we are smart. Now, what the Trumps of the world are trying to do and this is old news, it's gone on for a long, long time. This is what demagogues always do. What they try to do is divide us up. They try to scapegoat minorities. They try to have one group against another group. Years ago, Trump and the others were trying to tell us that President Obama was not a legitimate president, was not born in the United States of America. And then Trump tries to tell us that people from Mexico are criminals and rapists. And Trump tries to tell us that we should not allow Muslims to enter our country. This strategy of dividing us up, nothing new. It's gone on for a long time. Whites supposed to be against blacks. Straight supposed to be against gays, men supposed to be against women, people born in America supposed to be against people who've come into this country. All this game in the world. But we are going to win because our people are no longer going to fall for that nonsense. We are going to stand together. Despite all of their money, despite all of their super PACs, despite all of their power, when we become politically engaged and stand together, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. Let me tell you very briefly something that all of you already know. And that is real change never takes place from the top on down. Real change never takes place when a president signs a bill. Real change takes place when people by the tens of millions look around them and say, you know what? The status quo, what's going on today is just no longer acceptable. It has got to change. And when the people lead, the leaders follow. Michigan is one of the states that has led our nation in building a strong trade union movement. And in Michigan and throughout this country, workers stood up 100 years ago, even longer, and they said, you know what, we are not beasts of burden. We're not animals. We are human beings. We and our families must be treated with dignity. And these workers went out on strike. They were on picket lines. They were beaten. They were jailed. Sometimes they were killed. But they said, we will create a union movement. We will have collective bargaining. Well over 100 years ago, from pre-slavery days, there were people in this country, African Americans and their white allies, who said that racism and segregation is not what this country is supposed to be about. God only knows how many people whose names we will never know were beaten and killed and lynched in the fight for human dignity. Tell you a story which I really did not know about. Many of you know about the terrible bombing that took place in Birmingham, Alabama during the civil rights struggle when 4 beautiful children were killed. Of course, all of us knew that. What I did not know until visiting that church last month was that in the month of that bombing, there were 14 other bombings in Birmingham, Alabama. In one city, in 1 month, 14 bombings to prevent people from getting the rights that the Constitution entitled them to have. In other words, you had a city that was under terrorist attacks. That's the only way to describe it. what courage is about. Is the people of Birmingham, the people of Alabama, the people all over the country said, you are not going to intimidate us. We are going to stand up for human rights, and they did. That's courage. When you think that the struggle we face today is a tough struggle, think about Birmingham, Alabama. Think about what happened to people who stood up. If they could do it then, we can do it today. Think about the struggle for women's rights in this country. And their male allies who went on hunger strikes, who went to jail, who were beaten, who were humiliated, who in some cases died because they were saying loudly and clearly, in America, women will not be treated as second-class citizens. Not come from the top on down. Didn't suddenly occur to somebody someday, well, you know, I think women should be treated equally in America. And I want to talk about a couple of other struggles still going on right now. If we were in this room 10 years ago, not a very long time ago, somebody jumped up and they said, you know, I think that gay rights, gay marriage in America will be legal in 50 states by the year 2015. The person next to them would have said, what are you smoking? Which raises another issue. The gay community and their straight allies. What they said is that, you know what? It is appropriate, it is right that people in this country have the right to love those people they fall in love with. 30 years ago, Republicans were putting 30-second ads on television. Gay marriage is going to destroy America. It's terrible, it's horrible. You don't hear that anymore because the American people, led by young people, say, ain't a problem. People have the right to love whomever they want to love. And what the revolution is around, what the revolution is about, is that you go to young people, and you go to high schools throughout America, and you say, well, what do you think about gay marriage? And the kids say, excuse me, we don't understand the issue. What are you talking about? It's not an issue. What the world wants us to do is to think in a small box. It can't happen. It's too big an idea. Healthcare for all. Oh my goodness. We can't accomplish that. Too radical. But attacks on Wall Street. Oh no, they're too powerful. Can't do that. Give you one more example of how change takes place from the bottom on up when people have courage. Give you an example. If we were standing here 6-7 years ago, somebody jumps up and says, you know what, this federal minimum wage of 7.25 is a starvation wage. We got to raise it to 15 bucks an hour. Now, somebody said that 7 or 8 years ago, when people in the room would say, 15 bucks an hour, are you crazy? I mean, you're talking about doubling minimum wage. It's just too crazy an idea. It's too bold an idea. But then what happened is that all over this country, fast food workers went out on strike, and I've been pleased and honored to march with them. I was in Detroit a couple of years ago, and I met with a bunch of young people who were working at McDonald's and other fast food places. They were making 7.25 an hour. They couldn't even get 40 hours of work in one place during the week. They had to work 20 hours here, 20 hours there, get on a bus, go someplace, get on a bus, go someplace else. And some of these people had kids, trying to do the right thing. But what happened is, because of the courage of fast food workers and the unions behind them, suddenly Seattle, Washington says, you know what? 15 bucks an hour makes sense. San Francisco, Los Angeles. And I am proud to support that movement. 15 bucks an hour plus union representation. Is that people want you to think small. Think small. I think it is time for us to think big. All right, you can think huge. Saturday Night Live. All right. I want to give you an example of how this world really works. In the last 30 years, there has been a very significant, not a huge, very significant development in terms of economics. And I didn't see the Washington Post. I didn't see the Wall Street Journal. I didn't see the corporate media raise great concerns about this type of development. But what happened in the last 30 years, the middle class of this country significantly contracted. Millions of people worked longer hours for low wages. And there was a massive transfer of wealth from working families to the top 1/10 of 1%. In fact, turns out that in the last 30 years, the top 1/10 of 1% saw a doubling of the wealth, percentage of wealth in this country that they own. Middle class becomes poorer, very, very wealthy become wealthier. Where was the outrage from the establishment, from the corporate media? But somehow, when those of us stand up and say, give the middle class a break, oh my God, what a terrible thing that is. Now, our campaign has come a very long way in the last 9 months. were 50 points behind in the Iowa caucus. Didn't quite turn out that way. Down in New Hampshire, didn't quite turn out that way. When we began, we were way down in Michigan. It ain't gonna turn out that way. In a very focused political way is the following. We do well and will always do well when turnout is large. Frankly, we will struggle and we could lose when turnout is low. What the media tells us, not incorrectly, is that young people, well, you know, they're very busy. They're not really so engaged in the political process. Yeah, they may come out to a rally like today, but they're not going to come out to vote. Your job is to tell them that you understand you are the future of this country. While a handful of campaign contributors determine the future of America, you will be involved. Football is a spectator sport. Democracy is not a spectator sport. Is to determine and make certain that every American is actively involved in shaping the future of our country, not just the 1%. Now, when people say, Bernie, why is your campaign moving so quickly? Why do you have so much energy? I think the answer is fairly simple. We are treating the American people with respect and with intelligence. We are laying the real issues out on the table because as a nation, we cannot go forward unless we have the courage to look our problems straight in the face and then come up with real solutions. So what we are saying with this campaign, laying it right out on the table, we have a corrupt campaign finance system undermining American democracy. We have a rigged economy in which working families work longer hours for low wages, and almost all new income and wealth goes to the top 1%. And we have a broken criminal justice system in which, unbelievably, in our great country, we have more people in jail than any other country on earth. And when we ask ourselves why this campaign is resonating, it is because the American people are sick and tired of massive and grotesque levels of income and wealth inequality. Every person in this country understands that it is not acceptable that the top 1/10 of 1% now owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. That it is grotesque that the wealthiest 20 people now own more wealth than the bottom 150 million Americans, half of our people. That one family, the Walton family of Walmart, one family in America in 2016 now owns more wealth than the bottom 40%. When you talk about a rigged economy, let me give you one of many, many examples. This is how a rigged economy works. Walton family, wealthiest family in America. The people who work at Walmart, many thousands of them, are forced to go on food stamps, Medicaid, and subsidized housing because the wealthiest family in this country refuses to pay them a living wage. And what the rigged economy is about is the middle class pays higher taxes to provide the Medicaid, food stamps, and housing that the Walmart workers desperately need. So I say to the Walton family, get off of welfare, pay your workers a living wage. A rigged economy is when a shrinking middle class subsidizes the wealthiest family in this country. That will end if I'm elected president. And on behalf of those young men and women in Detroit and all over this country who are working at McDonald's for $7.25 or $8 an hour, the message is we are going to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And I hope that every man in this room will stand with the women for pay equity for women workers. Economic reason why women are making 79 cents on the dollar compared to men. That's old-fashioned sexism. We're going to end that together. When we talk about the economy, every month the federal government issues a number of reports on unemployment. Officially, unemployment in America is 5%. It ain't. Real unemployment, including those who have given up looking for work and those who are working part-time when they want to work full-time, is close to 10%. And here's something we don't discuss at all. Media never covers it. And that is the issue and the tragedy of youth unemployment in this country. I asked some economists a while back to do a study for me. Question, what is real youth unemployment for high school graduates, not dropouts, between 17 years of age and 20? Answer, kids are white, 33%. Kids are Latino, 36%. Kids are African American, 51%. In other words, we got millions of young people in this country, kids who graduated high school. They want to become adults. They want to get out in the real world. They want to earn some money. They want to start a career. They want to get out of their homes. They want to do what every young person wants to do. They can't find a job. And if anybody in this room thinks there is not a direct correlation between that human tragedy and another tragedy, which is that we have more people in jail today than any other country on earth, you would be mistaken. So you guys ready for a radical idea? Together, what we are going to do is invest in education and jobs. Not jails and incarceration. To be working in meaningful jobs, earning decent income, or in school, not in jail. Now, we're in a political season and you got Republican candidates running all over the country. And they are very deeply concerned about family values. And I trust that every person in this room knows what Republicans mean when they talk about family values and what they are saying. And it's important to say this over and over again, because I want every American to understand it. What Republicans are talking about is that no woman in this room, in this state, in this country, according to Republican ideology, has the right to control her own body. I disagree. And what Republicans are saying is they want to see the Congress defund Planned Parenthood. I want to expand Planned Parenthood. And what Republican family values are about are telling our LGBT brothers and sisters they do not have the right to be married. I disagree. Jane and I have been married 27 years. We believe in family values, but not Republican family values. When I talk about family values, I want everybody here to ask yourselves a very simple question. How does it happen that every major country on earth, how does it happen that virtually every impoverished country on earth has passed legislation guaranteeing paid family and medical leave, except the United States? How crazy is it that you got poor countries, struggling countries, who understand that when a woman has a baby, she has the right not to be forced to separate herself from that baby in order to go back to work in her life. And that is why together we will join the rest of the guarantee 3 months paid family and dental leave. Brothers and sisters, when we talk about the economy, it is not only the need to create millions of jobs by rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure. Flint, Michigan may be the worst example of a collapsing infrastructure, but it is not the only example. All over America, communities are struggling with deteriorating water systems, wastewater plants, airports, rail systems, roads, bridges, levees, and dams. We can create 13 million decent paying jobs rebuilding that It is not just about the need to create millions of good jobs. It is not just about the need to hire teachers, not fire teachers. It is not just about the need to create a world-class child care system. It is also about the need to stop the loss of millions of good-paying jobs because of disastrous trade policies. In the early 1990s, when I was first elected to the House of Representatives from Vermont, didn't take me a long period of time to understand who wrote these disaster trade agreements like NAFTA, CAFTA, PNTR with China. I understood that corporate America wrote those trade agreements, that the goal of those trade agreements was to throw American workers out on the street, go to low-wage countries, and bring those products back into America. Turned out I was right. Turns out that NAFTA and CAFTA and PNTR with China have cost us millions and millions of decent paying jobs. Because what corporate America said. That's why these agreements were written. They say, why do I want to pay a worker in Michigan or in Vermont 20, 25, 30 bucks an hour? I can shut down here, move abroad, pay people 50 cents an hour, $1 an hour, and bring the product back into America. You didn't have to be a PhD in economics to figure that one out. And that is why today I am helping to lead the effort against the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And why I believe we have got to fundamentally rewrite our trade policies. I know it sounds like a radical idea, but corporate America has got to start investing in this country, not just in China. When we talk about a rigged economy, I think I can bring together all of the elements in one short story. And that is, as some of you know, about 3 weeks ago, Goldman Sachs, one of the large financial institutions. You know about Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs was one of the major financial institutions on Wall Street whose greed and recklessness and illegal behavior drove this country into the worst economic downturn since the 1930s Depression. Millions of people lost their jobs, lost their homes, and lost their life savings as a result of this reckless and illegal behavior. Now, it turns out that a few weeks ago, Goldman Sachs, following many other banks, by the way, reached a $5 billion settlement with the United States government. $5 billion. And they reached that settlement, obviously, because they were guilty of selling worthless subprime mortgage packages and cheating investors and cheating the American people. $5 billion settlement for helping to destroy the American economy. Point number two, important to understand. When you talk about power in America, that's what we are talking about. When you talk about the power of Wall Street, understand that in the last 20, 25 years, Goldman Sachs alone, one financial institution, provided 2 secretaries of the Treasury, one under a Republican administration, one under a Democratic administration, and provided many other high-level government officials to do the work of Wall Street in the United States government. Number 3, when you talk about political power, understand that Goldman Sachs, as well as other Wall Street firms, have provided millions and millions of dollars in campaign finance contributions, and speaking fees to candidates across the political spectrum. Point number 4, and maybe the point that really galls the American people and makes people so angry at what goes on in America today. Today, some kid in Michigan gets picked up for possessing marijuana. That kid will have a police record for his entire life, which, by the way, will impact his life, making it harder for him to get a job and do other things in his life. Kid gets a police record for possessing marijuana, but if you are an executive on Wall Street whose illegal behavior helped destroy the economy, you get an increase in your salary. So, together, we are going to bring back justice to the criminal justice system. When we talk about criminal justice, there is so much to talk about. We don't have the time today, but let me give you one example, just one, of where we have got to move. I think any objective assessment of the so-called war on drugs will tell you that that war has failed the American people. It turns out that over the last 30 years, millions of Americans have received police records for the possession, being arrested for the possession of marijuana. Today, as part of the Federal Controlled Substance Act, marijuana is listed at a Schedule 1 level right next to heroin, a killer drug. That makes no sense to me, which is why we have introduced legislation to take marijuana out of controlled substances. has a racial impact as well. And here's the reason why. It turns out that what studies suggest is that the white community and the black community smoke marijuana at about equal levels. But it also turns out that African Americans are arrested for marijuana 4 times more than whites. And when we talk about creating the America that we know we can become, it means creating a vibrant democracy of one person, one vote. It means taking on cowardly Republican governors who do not have the guts to wage free and fair campaigns, who are trying to suppress the vote of poor people of color, of older people, because they know those groups will be voting against them. And I say to those cowardly Republican leaders, if you don't have the guts to participate in a free, open, and fair campaign, get another job. Get out of here. My colleagues in the United States Senate, my Republican colleagues who today unfortunately are in the majority, you talk about the Constitution a whole lot. Well, how about obeying the Constitution and start holding hearings when President Obama nominates the next Supreme Court judge? Here you have the Constitution as clear can be. The President of the United States nominates people to the Supreme Court. Republicans start hearings on his nomination. Do not obstruct. Obey the Constitution. Talk about creating a vibrant democracy together, we will overturn this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court. No nominee of mine to the Supreme Court will get that position unless he or she is loud and clear in stating they will vote to end Citizens United. Woo! Now, everybody in this room knows that in a highly competitive global economy, this country needs the best educated workforce in the world. What this country is supposed to be about is encouraging people to get the best education that they can. That is why, to my mind, it is incomprehensible that hundreds of thousands of bright and qualified young people today are unable to get a college education because their families lack the funds. 50 years ago, 100 years ago, when we talked about public education, it was appropriate to understand public education to mean first grade to 12th grade. Because 50 years ago, you know what, if you had a high school degree, you could go out and get a pretty good job, make it into the middle class. The world has changed. Today, in many respects, a college degree is what a high school degree was 50 years ago. And that is why I believe that when we talk about public education today, it must mean free tuition at public colleges and universities. This is not a radical idea. It's an idea that exists in countries throughout the world. It is basically an idea that used to exist here 50 or 60 years ago. Now, in addition, and here's what the revolutionary element of that idea is. I grew up in a family that didn't have a lot of money. My parents stuff went to college. There are kids in Michigan and Vermont, all over this country, parents stuff went to college. If we can make it clear that any kid in this country who studies hard, does well in school, will be able to get a higher education regardless of the income of that family, that will revolutionize education. And there is something else that we have got to address with regard to higher education. And that is the outrageous level of student debt that millions of people have. How many people here are carrying student debt? I've been all over the country, and I have talked to people, 50,000, 100,000, what do I hear here? What do you got? $80,000. I want you, when we talk about thinking outside of the status quo, take a deep breath and think about this for a moment. Everybody knows that education is inherent to our lives as human beings. Everybody knows that for our economy to be strong, we need the best educated workforce. How insane is it? Stop and think about it. You take it for granted. We shouldn't take it for granted. How insane is it that we are punishing people for decades? I've talked to people who've been paid off student debt for 25 years, are more in debt today than they were when they took it out 25 years ago. I have talked to others who are not only paying off their kids' student debt, they're still paying off their own student debt. How insane is it to punish people for the crime of trying to get an education? That is why, as part of our legislation, we are going to allow people with student debt to refinance that debt with the lowest possible interest rates they can find. Too big. Imagine that. 3 public colleges and universities. How can you dare to think that we can do what Germany does, what Scandinavia does? What a radical idea. How dare you think that we should not crush millions of people with outrageously high interest rates on their student debt? How are you going to pay for this, Bernie? I'll tell you how we're going to pay for it. We're going to impose a tax on Wall Street speculation. The economy. They came begging to the United States Congress. They said, yes, we were bad boys, bail us out. And the middle class bailed them out. Now it is Wall Street's time to help the middle class. When we talk about the issues facing this country and the world, let me tell you that I am a member of the Senate Committee on the Environment and the Senate Committee on Energy. I have talked to scientists all over our country and all over the world. The debate is over. Climate change is real, caused by human activity. Climate change is already doing devastating harm to our country and around the world. And what the scientists tell us, if we do not get our act together in a very short period of time, a bad situation will become much worse. By the end of this century, this planet could be 5 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than it is today, more drought, more flood, more extreme weather disturbances, more acidification of the ocean, more rising sea levels, more international conflict as people fight over limited natural resources. I'll say two things. Number one, we have the moral responsibility to leave this planet in a way that is healthy and habitable to our kids and our grandchildren, and I intend to do just that. Yes, the Koch brothers who make their money from fossil fuel, yes, the fossil fuel industry, yes, the coal companies, yes, the oil companies, yes, the fracking gas companies, all of them are very powerful. But we are going to tell them loudly and clearly that their short-term profits are not worth the future of this planet. We will transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. I believe in this country. I believe in our courage. I believe in our intelligence. So let me tell you, I have been criticized many times because I believe that the U.S. should do what every other major country on earth is doing, and that is guarantee health care to all people as a right. It is not acceptable to me that 29 million people today, despite the gains of the Affordable Care Act, which I helped to write, despite the gains of the Affordable Care Act, we continue to pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, and millions of our people have high deductibles and high co-payments. So my critics can criticize, but I believe that health care is a right of all people. I believe that the nurses are right, that we have got to move toward a Medicare for all single-payer program. whether we have the courage or whether we do not. We are in a pivotal moment in American history. And the question before us is, do we have the courage to tell the billionaire class they cannot have it all? Do we have the courage to tell the insurance companies and the drug companies that we are going to guarantee health care to all people? Do we have the courage to tell Wall Street that we are going to break up the large financial institutions? Do we have the courage to tell the fossil fuel industry we are going to transform our energy system? You know, when I think about Flint and what's happening there, and people say, well, you know how much money it will cost to rebuild Flint? That's expensive. But somehow, when we talk about rebuilding Flint, Michigan, very expensive. But when we went to war in Iraq, the trillions we spent there, not a problem. Creating a first-class childcare system, they tell me it's expensive, but giving hundreds of billions of dollars in tax breaks to the top 1%, that's pretty expensive. Together we have an opportunity in this campaign not only to elect a new president, but more importantly, to create a political revolution which transforms our country, to show that the young people of this country understand that men and women put their lives on the line and sometimes die to defend democracy, and that together we are going to stand up for democracy, we are going to vote, we are going to have the courage to take on powerful special interests, and yes, we will transform America. Thank you all.